Just because everyone else likes him doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to.
Well, yeah.
So, like, a church picnic and kneeling down clumsily to pray in the seam of her old Madra skirt, splitting along the zipper like the sound of a huge wind break.
Like, this is it for me.
Yeah.
My TBR is over. I'm just reading all his books. Yeah.
Carrie will be for sale shortly. Check out our Panko. I am kind of scared.
Emmalynn.
I'm Jessica.
We are here to read Stephen King for the very first time.
We're embarking
We've been
on a journey.
influenced. I would say my main desire to read him has come from 1, Abigail's Cup of Tea, and 2, Ian something.
Kubel.
I don't know what his last name is.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay. I feel like
What's all this hype about?
Well, yeah, but I also feel like just because he's the best horror writer doesn't mean his horror books are, like, the most, not necessarily scary, but, like, what would another level be? I don't know. They're not the most extreme just because they're the best.
I'm also just wondering, just because everyone else likes him doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to.
Well, yeah.
So, like,
So we decided to buy 5 of his books without reading it.
Well, okay.
First.
I bought 11/21/61. That's not really horror.
No.
At all.
No.
That's, like, sci-fi more. And then you bought Outsiders. And then we went to Sam's yesterday, and they have, like, all of his books for around $11. So
with, like, new covers.
Yeah.
They're
so
good.
I got Carrie, and she got Pet Sematary, obviously. And then I got The Shining, which I will probably be reading after this, depending on... Well, I guess I will, because I bought it. Unless I absolutely hate it.
I don't even think that's possible because all the stories are so different.
I am a little worried because I feel like, at least as far as the movies that I've seen go, which I've only seen like snippets of all of his movies except The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile I've seen all the way through, but like Pet Sematary, Carrie, what else? I'm trying to think of what other ones. Like I've seen Misery, I've seen like bits and pieces, but I've never sat down and watched any others. But of all of them that I've seen bits and pieces of, I feel like Carrie is the most gory, but it was like 80s gore.
But
so...
gore isn't horror to me. Like, I can handle a war movie.
Yeah. Yeah. But, like, that's different than, like, cutting people up with a chainsaw.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I don't know. This one does intrigue me, though, because it's about a group of high schoolers. Carrie has, like, telekinetic abilities. So that aspect kind of reminded me of 11 and Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Carrie is bullied, and so that, like, makes her use her abilities to, like, get revenge on the people who bullied her. That's all I know.
I just read the back of this for the first time 5 minutes ago. This is Pet Sematary. This is about Dr. Lewis Creed, and he takes a new job and moves to a rural town in Maine, and there's a pet cemetery behind his house. He messes with it, and bad things start happening, so... Yeah, I guess they're zombie animals.
All right.
We'll see. See, like, all the concepts, I'm like, oh, this is funny.
Yeah.
Like, every concept of a horror movie, I'm not like, except clowns. Nothings.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I know he'll be able to prove me wrong in my thoughts, but I'm like, how can this be scary? Like, it's like a cat that's alive again. Binks. I'll take him. So, I don't know. I'm interested to see what I think.
The eyes on the cover are kind of sad.
I know. It looks like one of those,
looks like the cat on Shrek.
like the grumpy cats. Or like a ragdoll
Yeah.
cat. Yeah, it does look sad. It looks like it's...
I've also seen people write reviews of this and say that, like, they felt so bad for her that they couldn't be scared of her.
That's
like
fair.
they I guess
I feel like
empathize with the bullying aspect so much that it kind of like overshadows the fact that she's getting revenge on people, and they're kind of like, go ahead.
you deserve it.
So,
or like I was watching Abigail a Cup of Tea, her new video. She reads Christine and she was crying because she just loved the character so much, because most of his books are relatively long that you just start connecting with them, and they all have, I feel like, pretty large backstories.
Yeah.
Anyways,
all of that
this is all speculation.
Yeah. That's what we know.
So let's find out.
Yeah, we're gonna try to read as much as we can. It's... what time is it?
Not as late as you think.
It's not even 9 p.m. So I think we could for sure read at least 100 pages. Yeah. Although I am getting sleepy.
Yeah. Maybe we'll take like a TV break.
Yeah. So here we go. Stephen King, first time. Let's do the darn thing. A church picnic and kneeling down clumsily to pray in the seam of her old madras skirt, splitting along the zipper like the sound of a huge wooden blanket.
Hello.
Okay, we're here.
I'm a failure.
We're here with our first check-in. You go first.
Well, I'm only 50 pages in. I fell asleep multiple times reading yesterday. Pretty much nothing has happened.
Oh.
Yet.
Really?
So we're still like, the setting is still building. They're like pretty good friends with the people across the street. They're like kind of redneck old people, like in their 70s or 80s. And the guy across the street, Judd, just took them to the pet cemetery for the first time, like 15 pages ago, maybe. So that's pretty much it. But the little girl has a cat named Winston Churchill.
How adorable.
And she's scared he's gonna die now. So that's it.
Okay, I have an update in multiple facets. So first of all, I went down a rabbit hole last night about Stephen King. I didn't know this was his debut novel. And I think he initially wrote this for a magazine, I think.
Oh.
And then, or like part of it, and then he turned the story into a novel. But I also went down a rabbit hole while I was reading this. I was like, hey, Emmalynn, does your book have any religious themes in it? Because Carrie definitely does. And she was like, yeah. And so I started researching because again, we know like little to nothing about Stephen King. This is probably common knowledge. But I started researching if that was common among his books to have religious themes, and apparently it is. And I was getting a little concerned because as Christians, the way he's portraying Carrie's mom as a Christian is kind of rubbing me the wrong way, because she's like a fundamental Christian, like overly religious, cultish type woman. And so it was kind of rubbing me the wrong way until I read why he does that. And it made me be like, okay, I can accept that then. So anyways, so far the opening scene of this is very grotesque and disturbing. It involves Carrie in her school's locker room after gym and getting severely bullied by a group of girls. And so that kind of sets the stage for what characters are going to maybe be taken revenge upon later. But we're getting a lot of backstory about Carrie when she was little and Carrie's mom and how she was raised. But it's interesting too because it has like the present day timeline and then it goes forward into the future when they're kind of like trying to analyze Carrie. And so they bring in like psychologists or people who had interaction with her. So we see some characters that are in high school with her giving their side of the story, like in interview format about Carrie later on because of what happens in this book. So I will say his writing style is taking some getting used to because it is very immersive and I like that, but it's a little vulgar and grotesque at times, like too much for what I would normally read. But I'm trying to have an open mind and be like, well, this is his debut novel. He kind of had to like maybe come into his writing style, and I mean, high school is brutal, so maybe that's just this book. I probably, like, knowing it, now that I know it is his debut novel, I probably wouldn't have jumped into reading him for the first time with this one if I would have known that. But I am obviously going to finish it. I'm 104 pages in. The font size of this book is drastically larger
That's
than
massive.
Pet Sematary, and
like
there
classic.
are large margins and a lot of, there's not really chapters in this book. There's just like change of, like the scene changes, the POV changes, the point in time changes. So there's like a lot of spaces. Anyways, I do feel very sorry for Carrie. And I will say, if you're thinking about picking up this book, I would say there are trigger warnings, and a lot of them, for like abuse, both physical, mental, spiritual, if that's a thing. Verbal abuse for sure from her mom and the other students. Yeah, it's just it's heavy, so I do feel very bad for her. So I was reading reviews and a lot of people said that, like, they said they were more sorry for Carrie than scared, and I feel that way so far, even though I know like it's gonna all come to head eventually. But yeah, I definitely think I can finish this today. I mean, it's a very fast read. There's not a lot of brain power involved. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens next with our progress. We'll see where we are in our next check-in.
Yeah. Hopefully much, much further.
Yeah.
At least halfway.
Back with our second check-in.
Third, first? Well, I guess.
I finished Carrie.
Viewing.
I finished it. I finished it. Should I give my final thoughts now or wait till the end?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I didn't like this book. It was easy to read. It was fast paced. There was no lull in the plot. Like, the whole book was basically plot. I had issues with the writing style. Mainly the fact that in this book, when I guess Stephen King wanted to emphasize the inner dialogue of characters, he would put their thoughts in parentheses, but in a very non-cohesive way. Like, it was just very weird, and I don't think, like, in today's time that would really get past an editor and put into publication, because it just, to me, it was so odd. I hated all of the characters, which I think was the point. I did feel sorry for Carrie. I didn't personally, this is just my opinion, the book goes back and forth between, like, what's actually happening in the present day, so Carrie at high school, and then it goes back or forward in time when they're doing research on, like, telekinesis, and they're interviewing people from the Carrie experience. The interviews about what happened were interesting and added to the plot, but the research and, like, journal, like, scientific journal entries about telekinesis, I thought were pointless. Like, I didn't think it was necessary at all. It didn't add anything. It just didn't add anything. I mean, I guess it's cool to say that you read, Stephen King's first novel. I wouldn't recommend this. I didn't really, like, I was just, like, reading it to get it over with. I mean, yeah. I would give this, like, 2.5 stars.
Now I want to, like, go and find what Ian has rated that book.
He has not read it.
He hasn't?
Mm-mm. I also will say, like, if you're thinking about reading this book, it is very vulgar in the way that they talk about Carrie, things that they do to her, the things that they're doing, like, in the story in general, just as high schoolers. That rubbed me the wrong way. Okay, what was the last thing I said on the... Should I just pretend like it's... I don't know. I don't even know where we're at. We've redone this 3 times. Redid this 3 times. Okay. All of that to say, I didn't really enjoy this book. I would give it a 2.5 stars. Wouldn't really recommend it.
Once again.
Unless you're wanting to solely read his books in chronological order, then obviously you have to start with this one.
But don't quit after that one.
Yes. Don't do that, because that's an interesting segue into I've already started The Shining, which is his 3rd book. So between Carrie and The Shining, he wrote Salem's Lot. There was 3 years between these 2 books. And I can already tell a drastic difference in his writing style, in, I don't know, the flow of the story is, I don't know, this book seems, like, more professional, I guess. This seems very amateur, almost like a high schooler wrote it. Maybe that's what he was going for, though. I don't know. But this follows our main guy, Jack, who just got fired from his job as a teacher for a reason that I won't say, because it is talked about at the beginning of the book. But he is wanting to pursue writing. He's been working on this screenplay for years. And so in order for him to kind of start fresh on his pursuit of writing, he decides to apply for a job at this hotel called the Overlook Hotel in a very remote part of Colorado that's, like, miles and miles and miles from civilization. And he gets the job as, like, the winter manager, basically, of this hotel. And the winter manager has to live on property during the winter, because there are very specific instructions that that person has to follow to make sure that this hotel stays heated and that the furnace doesn't burn up and that the rooms stay above a certain temperature, and just all of these kind of like oddities that an old hotel would have. So he gets the job as the winter manager. So him and his family will be moving into this hotel for the winter. And his wife isn't too sure about that because of what happened with him getting fired. And also because we learn very early on that Jack has some anger problems. He could benefit from anger management, perhaps. And so you're wondering right away how that is going to play into the storyline, because right up front we learn about 2 incidents that have happened because of his anger issues. So I'm enjoying it already. I feel like it's going to be more atmospheric, more mysterious, probably more scary, I would think, but I'm not sure. So yeah. Overall, I'm already enjoying this more than the entire book of Carrie. Oh, by the way, Carrie will be for sale shortly. Check out our Pango. Brand new, basically, you know.
Okay. I'm still reading Pet Sematary, and first of all, every time I see this, I convince myself more and more that cemetery is spelled this way, and I know it's not. And it's really throwing me off.
I don't know why he did that.
It's because I think it's because there's like a sign or something that says Pet Sematary, and it's spelled like this.
Oh, okay.
Something like that. Because it talks about, in this book, the main character is like starting to be convinced it's spelled with an S. Anyways, I'm 156 pages in, chapter 27. And when you see the number 27 as a chapter and only 156 pages, it makes me feel a little discouraged.
At least the chapters are
How many
short.
chapters are in this book?
Because I feel like I've heard some people say that some of his chapters are really long in certain books. So
I feel like they're getting longer, because it says like one of the last chapters is like 62.
Oh.
So I'm almost halfway through the chapters, not halfway through the book. Anyways, not a lot has happened. I think we're being fed a lot of information that's going to be important later. A few things have happened, but so far, you know, like I said, 150-ish pages in, and they've lived in this house for like 3-4 months. So I'm like, okay, is time going to start dragging out, or does this take place in like a year?
Yeah.
Seems like time has slowed down so far. But his neighbor is giving him some interesting information about the pet cemetery. Some weird things are starting to happen. And I say weird, I don't say scary. I don't even really think it's that dark, because it's like, okay, these animals are like almost ghosts, and that's not really like a spoiler. And so I'm just picturing like Binks and Hocus Pocus, like,
or
like
and
Zero, yeah, or like things in Harry Potter. I'm not getting the scared vibes yet. I do think his writing, like his descriptions, are really good. And I think you could imagine things to be scary, but that's just not where my mind is going. I do like his writing. It's very immersive. I have a very clear picture of literally everything in the story. Everything that they do, I can visualize.
What about their house? Is there a house vibey, or does it talk about their house
too much about the house? More like outside their house, the neighbor's house. But I do really like his writing. I just wish I would have gone into this expecting it to be slower, because I feel like my expectations were mixed up, especially since this is called like thrilling and scary. I expected it to move like very fast and like feel like your life is on edge. And that's just not how I feel yet, at least. And that doesn't make it bad. It just makes it different than what I was expecting. But I am excited to continue to read it. Just have to be patient with myself. You don't have to finish a book in a day.
Yeah, and this one is, I mean, this was barely 300 pages. This one is like 660, so...
Yeah, The Outsiders is over 500 pages,
this is
so
gonna take me a while.
that one's gonna take me a minute combined with this one, but that's okay.
That's okay.
It's okay. I'd rather take my time than rush it and not like it because I rushed it or I missed something.
I don't mind taking my time either if I am liking it.
Right.
So, I feel like for me, when I don't like a book, I can read it faster than when I do.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're just wanting to get through it. Like, I don't mind going at a slower pace if I'm enjoying it, so...
We're gonna go. We've recorded this like 3 times and we're done.
Yeah, we're done. We're done here.
Come back when we have new thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Not ones we've repeated.
That will be around for one time only.
Mm-hmm.
Limited edition. Hello, it's been a long time.
It's been a long time coming.
Oh,
Not in a good way.
a long time avoided, maybe is the better term. Finished this a while ago, but also at the same time, long after the last clip we recorded. This was not worth the hype to me, and in this video, we were going to read 2 more Stephen King books, but he is literally putting me in a slump. And I know better than to keep reading things after watching, Destiny Sidwell for years. Then I feel like she lives in a book slump, and I'm like, I'm going to do better. And learn to DNF things early and not ruin my trajectory.
Or just force yourself to read things you're not in the mood for.
No one's gaining anything by, me reading that. Except myself, so why do I think I need to read that right now? So, Pet Sematary was probably like a 2-star for me. I do think that his writing was interesting at times, but I absolutely could not stand the pacing of this book. It was like it was almost documentary style. Like, they would jump from month to month only when things were happening. So I'm like, okay, if something's only happening every few months, then I don't really feel like this is scary. Because it's not like it's repeatedly happening every day, like something bad's happening. No, it's like 6 months go by. Eventually, at like part 3, everything does get pretty dark, take a bad turn, obviously, but like... that little tiny chunk was just not worth all of this to me. I am interested in his like more detective novels, his short stories, maybe more of his like just general fiction books because I would have that outlook, but thinking this was going to be like a thrilling horror and it being more of a general fiction that had a really dark turn, not what I was expecting.
I started The Shining. I made it to part 3, which is about 150 pages, a little less.
Part 3 doesn't start till there's like 20 pages left in this book.
Okay, so if you don't know what this is about, it's about a man named Jack who was a teacher, had something happen with one of his students. He got fired. seems to have an anger problem, an anger issue, and he decides that he doesn't want to go back to teaching, that he just wants to focus on his writing. And so he decides to take a job managing this hotel for the winter. So it's like in a very remote part of Colorado. Him and his family moved to this hotel to be the caretakers of it during the winter. And so that's where I am. It's the pacing of this is a little slow, but it's mostly fine. The thing that I don't really like about it is, okay, oh, by the way, Jack has a son. His name is Danny. He's 5 years old, and Danny can, like, he has special gifts. We'll just say that. But the thing that is very off-putting to me about this book, there's this guy that works at this hotel. I guess he's like the janitor, groundskeeper. He has the most foul mouth. And I'm like, why is this necessary? Like, why do we need this? So I don't know. It's just very off-putting. And I'm like, are all of his books like this? Is this like something he does for effect? I just don't feel like it really adds to it. But I am deciding to soft DNF this. I am interested in the story, but not enough to keep me reading it right now. Right. So all of that to say,
that's where we are.
This is not how I thought it was going to go.
No, I fully went into this thinking I was going to have a new favorite author. I was going to feel like disappointed in myself that I had put off reading his books
and
for so
we're
long.
gonna like go by all of
like
them.
This is it for me. My TBR is over. I'm just reading all his books. Yeah, no. So learn your lesson. You know, use your library. Use Libby. Use Audible. Use Spotify.
Also,
get new authors for free.
The thing that I would say too is, I think a lot of times as readers, you feel pressure to read authors that other people love, which can be good because it kind of like takes you out of your comfort zone, exposes you to authors you wouldn't normally read. But I feel like there's a pressure to like these authors just because they are like so beloved by so many other people. And that doesn't mean that they're going to be for you. And that's okay. That's okay. To each their own, you know? It's neither right or wrong. It's just not for me. So
there you go.
There you have it. Our Stephen King reading vlog. Let us know what your experience has been like.
I think this had more plot twists than my book.
Yeah.
You know, I said I was going to read 2 books, said I was going to love them. I read 1.
We should have made a hypothesis.
I did in my head.
And our conclusion is the opposite.
Yeah. So,
there was lots of variables that we did not see coming.
Yeah, we had the same outcome.
Yep. Crazy. It's almost like we have the same taste. Anyways, let us know what your experience has been like reading Stephen King. Let us know if you agree, disagree. It's fine. We're here to talk about it.
Let us know, like, if you did like him, what books did you like and why? Let me know.
Convince us or agree with us.
Expectations, I just feel like, had so much to do with it. Yeah. Like, I wish I had the right expectations going into this, and maybe I'd feel differently. And now, gonna read something we enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Christmassy books for me. Alrighty.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.